Welcome everybody to the Neuro show, where we uncover the transformative powers of the mind. I'm Reg Malhotra, your host, and I'm here to guide you with practical tools and inspiring stories grounded in neuro-linguistic programming and hypnosis. Now, whether you're a high achiever feeling stuck or a growth seeker looking to overcome setbacks, join us each week to break through barriers and achieve profound personal and professional growth. So let's dive in and unlock your potential.
Welcome to Neuromaster's podcast. Today, we are talking about the mental rebellion. This is a movement led by Reg Malhotra, and it's all about breaking free from fear, scarcity, and the conditioning that keeps people stuck. So if you're ready to take radical responsibility and reclaim your mind, this episode is for you. Let's get started. Reg, welcome. I am personally very fascinated by this. So the mental rebellion is a very bold name. What does it mean, and what are we rebelling against?
Hi, Kim. So yeah, it's a bold name. It's a bold idea. Having said that, it's quite fundamental, in its roots. We're rebelling against conditioning. We're rebelling against limiting ideas. We're rebelling against constant programming. That we are not enough. Okay? That's what we're rebelling against. And what does we are not enough means? Well, if you look at it from the way we grow up, right? School is important. Sure, it's important. But what we learn may not necessarily be what empowers us, right? By the time we grow up. So a lot of the signals coming in terms of information, in terms of, beliefs and values, they tend to limit us. For example, by the time we grow up, most of us have not even contemplated that we can do things inside. We can think a certain way so that we feel more in control of our lives. That's barely talked about. Sure, the idea of confidence may be mentioned, but that's not enough. We are consistently surrounded with messages of scarcity, dependency, and fear. You look anywhere in the world now, whether it's at a global level, political level, or just society level, community level, we're all running around from fears or having fears of things going wrong, and in particular, there not being enough. There's not enough land, not enough water, not enough, opportunities. What is that constantly telling us? Eventually, it's a message of we're not enough. Mm-hmm. See, I deal with thousands of people around the world, and one of the biggest things that comes out of people's mouth is that I do not feel enough. So we're rebelling against these ideas that are promoted through education, promoted through politics, promoted through organizations, promoted through marketing. And that's what we're rebelling against. This movement is about recognizing what we have as opposed to constantly focusing on what we don't have, what's going to go wrong, what we should run from.
Yeah, this is a topic that I'm deeply, deeply passionate about, especially coming from my own perspective of that not being enough. And what I'm hearing too is this is, having a lack mindset versus an abundant mindset. But a lot of what you're talking about here, it sounds like it's also the rebellion here is breaking free from societal programming. Right? So what are some of the biggest lies, Reg, that you would say that we've been told about our minds and our potential that have led us down this fundamental belief that completely just defines our well-being and the way we go about life?
Some of the biggest lies, and that may not be very direct, but it may be indirect in its messaging, is that we need to depend. Now, sure, there is a practical side of it. If we have chosen to have elected people to lead us, to manage laws and regulations. But if you look below all of that, there is a message of dependency, right? That we are dependent on someone all the time. That's how we've structured everything. But that, after a while, that takes away all of our power. If we all the time looking at the government or other institutions and things outside of us, sure, sometimes they play a role in what we can and cannot do, but we need to break free from these dependency patterns. And what I mean by that is we need enough messaging, or we need to build education that also reminds us that there is a lot of things we can do ourselves. There's a lot of ideas we can create ourselves. There's a lot of problems we can solve ourselves. That we don't, dependency, because once you think you're dependent, once you live your life like you're dependent, it's a pattern that will cross every area of your life. You're going to be pointing fingers, you're going to be blaming others. And so we need a balance on independence, on the idea of independence, that we can control our inner world, our outer world. We can do certain things to change our own reality. That's the big one. The one that's below that is scarcity. The entire messaging is around there is not enough. And then finally, there is not a lot of education, not a lot of promotion of the powers of our mind. There just isn't. We know through our field that a person can get rid of a phobia, a person can get rid of lifelong anger, that a person can get rid of negative behaviors, even addictions, real fast. But that's not possible if you don't believe it, and if you're not aware of what your mind is capable of. You're always thinking that I need to take either it's medication, or years and years and years of therapy, or there is something fundamentally wrong with me. You see, the ideas that are promoted, that what makes you intelligent and what doesn't, in itself is flawed. You may have heard of the quote, if you keep judging a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll live its life feeling stupid. We need to respect that intelligence has different forms. And so these are the ideas that we have stuck in, and it's coming from government, it's coming from businesses, it's coming from religions, it's coming from within families because of people's prior experiences. We need to break free from all of this.
That codependency piece, Reg, is huge, right? And a couple of things that you said here, is leaning more on our own independence. And what I think of when you say that is trust. It's deep self-trust. And, when we become so dependent on others, I believe, from my perspective, I'm curious what you think, is that there is an element or a lack of trust and even maybe self-trust here, which could then therefore be connected to fear-based thinking, right? So I believe that a big part of this movement is rejecting that fear-based thinking. So how does fear also contribute to keeping people stuck, and who benefits from that?
Well, what is fear a result of? Fear is a result of the ideas we adopt. What makes me good and what makes me bad? Did I pass or did I fail? Am I rated A or am I rated D? This is rampant across society in every way. And we walk about our lives, and then we develop fears of rejection. We develop fears of trying something new. We develop fears of judgments. These are the things that keep us stuck, and the longer we're in this space, the bigger the fears grow. And then that leads to the trust piece you speak about. The more the fears, the more the variety of fears, the more the cocktail of fears, the less we do things that we truly want to do, the less we say things that we truly want to say, the less we behave in ways that are true to us, and the less we do us, we don't trust us. We cannot trust us if we think we might do the wrong thing. Why is it that schools do not encourage mistake making? Simple. Why are people punished or rejected or failed, if you will, if you make a mistake? Why is it that mistakes are not celebrated? Why are they celebrated in the startup industry, in the tech industry, in many cases, in the business world? But we have a culture of separating the good from the bad based on, many times, mistakes. Why do we not celebrate someone who's tried something even though it didn't work out? Because if that's done at an early stage, people develop the neurology to take chances, to back themselves up, to try new things, to try different things, and that's we create solutions, right? We ultimately it's about solving. We spoke about the last episode. It's about solving higher complexity problems, and as AI is showing us today, the lower complexity problems will be solved by technology, whether we like it or not. And to solve higher complexity problems, you need a freer mind. You need belief in yourself. You need to, whether you like it or not, you have to feel enough based on who you are, what you have, and then developing the powers of your mind, developing your mind and freeing yourself from negative emotions that keep you stuck. There is literally no education on this. This is what this rebellion is about. And I believe, after working with thousands of people, after really seeing the changes that are possible, that a lot of this information is being kept hidden. It's not being promoted. It needs to be promoted in schools, first of all. It needs to be promoted within organizations. It needs to be promoted within different groups and communities. And there needs to be evidence shown over and over again of people who have trusted themselves, who have not spent their life in fear and scarcity. How do you operate when all the time you think there is not enough? How do you operate from that place? You're going to be limited.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, very limited. And what's coming to me here, the term that's coming to me here is control, right? So we as individual humans, we may, have a fear of the inevitable or fear of change, anything that's outside of our control, right? And that could also play a factor of why we are so stuck on that fear-based thinking. It could also play a factor in our codependency. And you mentioned here too, our entire upbringing it's all of these societal expectations that are placed on us. Why is this that, this is what we're learning in schools. This is, we can't make mistakes, all of that. I see that also as kind of a sense of control. And so I'm curious from your perspective, Reg, how does control play a factor in this? What does it mean and how does it actually show up here?
Look, there's that control piece, sure. Ultimately, in order for all of us to coexist on this one planet we call Earth, there needs to be rules, structures, there needs to be boundaries, there needs to be laws and regulations. You could call all of that part of control. There is some other control pieces that I'm sure that are there about freedom to think, right? I'm going to use my own story here. As I look back at my life, there are things that I couldn't even contemplate. They just weren't available. I couldn't even contemplate the idea of some of the things that I've done. It seemed, forget about seeming impossible. It seemed inappropriate. It seemed undoable. It seemed far beyond one's reach. Right? Now, at a high macro scale, for governments, for organizations, there is always going to be some level of desire to control, for example, the way people think. If you look at marketing, even marketing in itself is an idea of, can we influence the way people think? Then the other side of control is for power. Those things will never go. People will always want, certain people want power. For 8 billion people to exist here, someone will want some level of control to keep order. It's when that control becomes, comes with negative intentions, sometimes harmful intentions, that also happens. But I think we gotta come back down here and talk about how is it that someone who takes control of their own self, how is it that someone who works with themselves uses tools and techniques to let go of, say, certain barriers, internal barriers, blocks, and so forth, can go ahead and do a lot of great things while a huge proportion of society continues to believe, in fact, reinforces beliefs that are limiting. And they do it happily. They do it happily. I mean, there are things that I could not even have contemplated. Why did I not know when I was an 18-year-old kid that there are tools like NLP and hypnosis, and there are such fabulous tools out there that can reset your entire system. It can let go of behaviors, it can help you produce new behaviors. Why are we not being told this? Why are we always being told that if you do this, then this can happen, and that's the only possible outcome? Why are we not being told at grassroots level, if you do this, something can go wrong. However, you will have the power to change your mindset on this. Why not? Why isn't it active all the time? Why is it only existing, for example, in sports? You see in sports a lot of time that people are, well, that's okay. You learn from your failure. You put your, next foot forward. You get more out of yourself. You imprint these messages upon your subconscious. You visualize victory. Then you repeat it over and over again. Then you go and practice. I mean, why isn't this being done everywhere? Why is everything telling people, poor you poor victim? Everything is telling us that we just need to survive. This is the issue. We are just it is being impressed upon us all the time, that we just need all the messaging we see on news and TV and, fear and propaganda and all of that. We just need a handful of people to consistently spread the message that is the exact opposite, which is that we cannot just survive. If we just keep trying to survive, what's happening now is what will always happen. We'll keep fighting with each other. We'll keep trying to kill each other. We'll keep thinking that if you have, then I don't. If I have, then you don't. We'll keep engaging in win-loss. We'll keep thinking that there is not enough. And we'll forever be living life as a victim and as surviving only. There is no room for thriving. That's only like the top few percent, because they don't engage in this. They do not believe 99% of what everyday people believe. Just so you know, 99% of what everyday people believe is not believed by those who are right at the top. They don't believe there's not enough. They don't believe that it's that you cannot take control and charge of your mind. They do not believe that because that happened to me, so I have no opportunity. They don't call themselves poor little me, no matter what's happened. They do not say, why me? They say, try me. What is the big difference? Whereas everyone is looking at each other and saying, hey, if you win, then I lose. I'm going to hoard. This is what's going on everywhere, in the West and the East. And we're producing more children that think that way. That's what we tell them. It's one thing to be competitive. Sure. It's one thing but it's coming from a place of the idea of victory. But to be competitive, to not lose, is survival. There's a big difference in saying I'm competing to win, as I'm competing to not lose. And I think the whole world, majority of the world, is engaged to not lose. Michael Jordan did not go on the court and say, today we're going to play to not lose. Can you imagine if a sports went to say, all right, boys, today we have one goal and we're all going to work together to not lose. That's how most people live their lives. To not lose, to only survive. That's what this movement is about. This movement is about improving the messaging. It's about showing evidence over and over and over again. I mean, I've had plenty of people who have gone from complete despair, even suicidal at times, completely having decided to never be in a relationship, had thought the worst of themselves, never taken use of opportunities. Opportunities pass by because they think they're not good enough, didn't even try it, petrified of making mistakes, to a complete 360. So I have plenty of evidence. So this rebellion is, even though it sounds like a rebellion, it's simply acknowledging who we actually are versus who we're not. Sure, there are some variables, Not everyone is the same. Not one size fits all. But what would happen if this was our default thinking, default messaging, and we then began to solve personal, relationship, business, and community problems from that place?
Yeah, yeah. And you mentioned survival, which I think is so huge and a big concept to look at here. And especially when you mentioned victim, right? That we are a victim. And what came to me is that we are a victim of our circumstances. And what are those circumstances? Essentially, it's all the conditioning that we've been made to believe in that scarcity mindset, the not enoughness, not enough time, not enough money, not enough fill in the blank. And so when we look at that 1% that's at the top that has such a different belief system, and you also mentioned evidence, right? Evidence. And you alluded to your personal story and how there was a period of time where you couldn't have imagined what was possible for you. And so it sounds to me then, Reg, like the scarcity mindset that we've been so conditioned to really believe in and really falling victim to our circumstances is an illusion. Would you say that's correct? And if so, how do we create that evidence for ourselves to change that scarcity, to change that mindset?
Sure. So scarcity, which is there is not enough, that everything is scarce. At a broad level, I will call it an illusion, because it's a matter of the mind first. We need to contextually, sometimes things can be scarce. If I live on a little island and there's no way out for me, and then there is only so many trees that produce coconuts, sure, resources are scarce. But even in that situation, if I have a thinking system that says, I'm creative, I'm resourceful, I can find things that are not currently visible, I can, solve problems here, I can find alternatives, I'm good enough to try something different, then it's possible I would get by on the island, one way or another. I'm just using an example. But if it's a good example actually. I'm saying, but if I go, oh, there's only so many trees, there's only so many coconuts, I can't try eating leaves, I can't do this. What if I get it wrong? If I just keep doing that, then I squash my resourcefulness. I will miss solutions that are sitting right in front of me. That makes sense? So it's definitely a matter of the mind. Mm-hmm. Contextually, sometimes things can be scarce. Sure. If I live in a little country that doesn't have a lot of people, maybe there will be lesser opportunity to employ people. Sure, to do the problems that I want to solve. That could be contextually true at the time. But if my mind is not scarce, I can think of solutions outside the box. Make sense? And we are producing millions of people coming out of schools that walk out day one, there's not enough. On top of that, things could have happened at school. I'm not enough. I'm going back to school because that's where we're producing adults from, right? Or things could have happened in their home, in their family, the messaging from the parents, or things they see on social media now, look, we can never stop that information coming through. Things are going to happen. We got 8 billion people, we got billions of organizations. But what would happen if the individual can look at all of that and still maintain their position, maintain expanded and a sense of expansion, a sense of there is a lot that we can do. Because if there wasn't, we wouldn't be thinking about going to other planets. We wouldn't be thinking about the solutions we really do. We don't have to. We can just sit down and just say, okay, I just got to eat, breathe, have shelter, and get by life. I mean, the amount of people that we meet, Kim, that have literally checked out of life, literally. I mean, I don't have evidence for this. I don't have a study to back it up. But if I went with what I've personally seen, heard, and witnessed, I would say as much as 1 out of 4 or 1 out of 5 people have at some level checked out. It's a task. It's a chore. Life is a problem. And that is a direct result of the limitedness. And again, we have to rebel.
Hmm.
We need enough people to rebel against these ideas, look at the contrary evidence, know that there are tools and techniques and fabulous stuff that can help along the way, and then aim for that thinking system and mindset.
Yeah, you said something, we view life as a problem. And I think that, yes, whether or not we are consciously aware that we view life that way, I believe that to be so true, rather than looking at it as a journey or an experience to be enjoyed. Right. And I think that's such a difference too between that scarcity mindset we're talking about and an abundant mindset. You use the term resourceful and resourcefulness. And going back to your example on the island, if you're stuck on an island and, you're limited to where you are and your solutions, around you are limited, you're going to be naturally resourceful in your thinking. You're going to think outside of the box. How can I? Or I would hope that you would think so, right? To try to survive, go back to survival. But going back and inserting yourself in the quote unquote real world, it goes back to the conversation of codependence that we were having earlier. If we are aware that we have other people that we can rely on, we may be less resourceful. So would you say that resourcefulness, amongst other things, is a key to shifting into an abundant mindset, to just changing the script in our mind?
Yeah, absolutely. Resourcefulness is a direct result of what you have chosen to believe. I mean, people's resourcefulness really shows up when they have no choice but to be resourceful. Like there are problems you will end up solving. A lot of time people say, I don't have the money. You see, people at the top, they don't say, I don't have the money. They say, is this important to me? Very different mindset. So there is a lot of the messaging has enhanced the idea of dependency. We've been lied to. The governments, the financial system, even some religious messages want us to believe that we need to be saved. And we know how much profit there is just from the idea of us feeling dependent. Like, second point on that, so there's dependency, then there is fear. Fear is the tool of control. Fear of poverty, fear of losing something, fear of something being taken from us. Fear keeps us divided, distracted, and manageable. Then the third piece is the scarcity. Whether something is true or not in a certain context is also irrelevant. Most people are convinced that there is not enough. There is not enough jobs, there's not enough opportunities, there is not enough money, there is not, and by the way, that there is also not enough love. People walk around like close to receiving love. Because when love shows up, most of us don't even believe it's real. So it's all connected. The problem is not scarcity. It's first the belief in scarcity. Then you have the issue of survival. Humans in general, this species with the consciousness we have, we're meant to thrive. We're meant to create. But we've been conditioned to accept survival as success. Hey, I survived. Right? When we're here to create, thrive, and expand. This is why most people settle for mediocrity. And then we've been lied to about our mind. That we're just regular creature, flesh and bones in a big world. And the truth is, you're extraordinary with the capabilities of the mind, the faculties we have of logic, reason, willpower. Sure, we could say, well, Reg, what about the children in Africa? What about the people in Africa? Sure, but even in Africa, yeah, you could be born in a certain situation, but the messaging is different. In certain parts, I say Africa because there are certain parts of Africa where situation is tough, right? But again, it's better to have a mindset that I can get out of this. I can believe, I can solve problems and get myself out of this. But that's not available. That thinking is not available.
I love what you just said there, that thinking is not available, right? So we've talked about dependency, we've talked about fear, we've talked about scarcity, and certainly if it was simple for us to just flip a switch and change our thinking, we would do that, right? So I believe then that the mental rebellion, this rebellion, it's more about theory, it's about action. So what would you say are 3 things that someone can do today to start their own mental rebellion?
Great question. The first thing I would do to start first thing you should do to start your own mental rebellion is make a decision that no matter what's happened, no matter what you've seen, heard, that there is a path forward to thrive. The decision has to come first. And if you struggle with that decision, look for autobiographies, look for stories, look for people, look for all the evidence. See, your brain will give you more evidence of what you believe. And you always have a choice what to believe, no matter what's happened. So make the decision, right, that you can thrive. Look for all the evidence, especially in the West, where a lot of our lower complexity problems are nowhere near as big as some of the parts of the world where people are just engaged in where am I going to get dinner tonight? If you don't have that problem, if you don't have to engage in that, or you know that that's looked after one way or another, you need to start solving higher complexity problems. Put your energy, your time, and your money in solving that. Number 2, figure out as how enough or not you feel, and why not. You know, I ask a lot of people sometimes, do you feel, who here feels you're fundamentally flawed? I'd say about 60-70% of the room's hands go up. Listen to these words, fundamentally flawed. That presupposes you're unchangeable. If you've been living your life feeling you're fundamentally flawed because, maybe because of your gender, because of your color, because of your where you were born, or what experiences you got, or sexuality, whatever the reason is, you have to get out of this fundamentally flawed thinking, right? There are people who made a lot of progress who had the worst end of the stick. Your disadvantage can be your advantage. Your mess can be your message, and your complaint can be your mission. We need to move from why me to try me. Third thing is, if you're struggling with all of this, you need to figure out what is available already to help you change what's already stuck at the subconscious level. You have to change your identity. Who you see is who you'll be. Who are you seeing yourself as? And the good news is you can start to make those changes inside of you, and then evaluate what decisions you need to make, and make it a practice to engage in abundance type thinking. Remind yourself, initially look for places that remind you how much there is. Because you have a choice. Whether something is true or not is irrelevant. If I continue to believe there is not enough, my behaviors will reflect that. Because I believe there is enough, I have made a choice. I express in life differently.
Yeah, so evidence, right? Looking for that evidence and even creating it for yourself.
Yes.
You mentioned, I love this, and I'm going to put this up on my wall for myself, but switching from why me to try me, and identity evolution.
Yeah.
Right. And what's embedded in that is breaking free from limiting beliefs, that scarcity mindset, reclaiming your power. So, Reg, how does Neuromasters Academy help people with all of this?
We exactly and specifically help people with that. And we are extremely passionate about that. So if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, where you are could be a result of your fear and scarcity-based thinking. If you're stuck, if things are not moving, if you've plateaued, income's not rising, if you're at the same spot for a long period of time, or if you're going backwards, you need to reset your thinking. You need to let go of certain things. You need to reprogram and rewire. We help people specifically with that. We give specific proven tools that work fast. If you're someone who's had a major life event, or if you've had, grown up in a way that has left you with a void, we specifically help you with that so that you can let go of anger, sadness, fear, hurt, guilt, and limiting decisions that were made at significant emotional events that lead to limiting beliefs. You can actually reframe all of that at the subconscious level using specific communication tools and neuro-linguistic tools that help you work with your mind, and you take away the tools with you so you can do that with yourself. That's the second type of person. Third type of person is someone who, a lot of people we meet, they know they're different. They know. They know there's something different about them. You may have felt bad about the fact you're different. Or there are big things you want to do in life, but you're playing small. You're feeling limited. You're feeling stuck because of what messaging has been given to you by your family, your friends, your circles, with everything you've gained till now, everything you've acquired till now in terms of information has given you a very limited idea of the world. And as you listen to this episode, if you've gone, oh my God, that could not be true. And if it is, I want to know how, then there is a plethora of tools and techniques that can give you a 360-degree shift. Because if what's happening in here changes, if you see possibilities instead of restrictions, if you see abundance instead of scarcity, if you see more than enough instead of not enough, if you see independence of decision-making, of control, as opposed to dependence, then your behaviors will be substantially different. You'll try things you've never tried before. You'll make decisions rather than staying in fear of making decisions. You'll even make mistakes and learn from them. And you'll also produce and create things that may seem like a dream right now.
Yeah. And I would say, with everything that you offer, that's another point of tapping into your resourcefulness, right? Being resourceful is not necessarily doing it by yourself. It's leaning into how can I, and what are the support systems that I can bring in to support me along the way. And Neuromasters Academy is a beautiful example of that. So this has been a very powerful conversation, Reg, and I'm sure that many of our listeners here can really resonate. So for anybody who is ready to take action and join the mental rebellion, where can they start?
Well, you can start the mental rebellion, as you asked earlier, in your own way with the ideas we've given you. You need to become a rebel. You need to become a mental rebel. You need to start shedding off things that are not. Ask yourself, is this taking me where I want to go, or is it taking me backwards? You can start that movement with yourself. For us, anybody who trains with us, who learns with us, who grows with us, is automatically becoming part of the mental rebellion movement. We got thousands of people around the world who are interested in this, who want to, and how they're going to do that is by spreading that messaging, by helping people in different ways, to impress these ideas upon them. And training with us means you automatically become part of this movement. And not only that, you'll be able to help yourself, you'll get the skill set to help other people, and not just by talking, but actually helping them get out of the funk using tools and techniques. So, reach out to Neuromasters, neuromastersacademy.com. If you want to learn more about it, talk to one of our people, one of our master practitioners, and they'll tell you all about it and how you can be a part of it.
That's wonderful, Reg. Thank you. Thank you for all of that. I love the beauty in that. And when you're helping yourself, it doesn't end there. It helps everybody around you. So I think that's beautiful. So thank you so much. If this episode has resonated with you, please share it and subscribe for more conversations on breaking free and taking back control of your life. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Neuromasters Show. I'm Reg Malhotra, reminding you that your trauma is seen, your transformation is possible, and your breakthrough is right around the corner. If you found today's episode valuable, you can visit our website for many more resources, to register for a live breakthrough experience, and to continue your journey of reclaiming your full self.